So in this video we're taking on hard surfaces, so we're basically talking anything automotive. So in this video we're going to take on the paints which you would use, which are all water-based base coats and then all of automotive grade pigment, all suitable to hard surfaces. Now hang around because we're going to end up doing this bonnet for you, and we're going to do it in Quicksilver Chrome and Candy 2O. Now the surfaces that we're looking at things like bowling pins, anything hard, helmets, die casts, fishing lures, fishing jigs, bonnets, surfboards, cars, hot rods, boats, helicopters, planes. We've had all these objects painted in these paint systems and they all get success. So how do we go about making sure we get that success? Well, first of all, like the bonnet here, as you can see, we sand the area with 600 grit wet and dry. That gives us key for the paint to stick to. Now, one of the things that guys fall over with is they then use wax and grease remover. Wax and grease remover, if you don't get that off properly, that actually just puts a film of grease on the surface. So your paint can come off when you use taping. How do you avoid that? Don't use it. Use isopropyl alcohol. Once you've wiped that down, all these objects will wipe down with it. I've got guys everywhere using isopropyl alcohol. Their paint jobs last and they don't have delamination issues, okay? So that is the key to getting your paint to stick. So where do we start? Well, if we're painting the whole object, we need an undercoat. So there we use Autobahn Sealer undercoat. So if you're only doing an existing paint job and you've got to sand it, put a graphic on, you don't need to undercoat it. But if you're going to be sanding and painting a whole area, it's not for raw metal, but anything else, you would use Autobahn Sealer. That is an undercoat. And that surfboard there, I can tell you that that was done in sparklescent mango as the colour. Now underneath it I put Autobahn orange. I only used a couple of coats of the mango and I've got a really nice clean surface, and this patchless is absolutely perfect. It's how you want it to be. So use the Autobahn sealers. They're tenacious, they stick hard to all these products. Now as far as the paints are concerned, what are we going to use? Well, airbrushing. We'll talk airbrushing because that's what notoriously is here. And illustration colours is designed to do small applications like the iris of the eye, anything where you want detail like this Frankenstein. And it just doesn't take in the illustration colours, it takes in the bloodline colours, the lifeline colours, the opaque colours. They're all illustration colours. You can use them straight from the bottle, or you can reduce them a bit if you want to get down even finer. So we'll talk about reduction a bit later, but anyway, as far as the paints are concerned, there's your key to your airbrushing. Wicked colours, you can use wicked colours obviously on all automotive surfaces, same as you can auto-wear colours on all automotive surfaces. You've got the Candy True dyes, you can use those as well. And we've got the chrome. Now the chrome is water-based chrome, these are all water-based or water-borne. So you have no clear coat windows, you have no working windows. What you paint is what you get. When you put clear on, you don't see your colour lose. The chrome does not go dull, it stays bright. It's actually brighter than solvent systems. So guys, you should be using water-based colours because you get a much better effect at the end and it's easy to use. So the chrome, that's the only one we're going to put aside here because you do not reduce it. We use this straight from the bottle, there's no reduction, no additives, okay? But for the rest of the system, for all these surfaces, we use the 4012 high performance reducer. Now there is guys that are saying, well, how about the automotive reducer? Well, if you want to get the automotive reducer, just go down to your local hardware, get some acetone, put 5% roughly into the 4012. It will not set your bottle off, and that is all the high performance reducer now turned into an automotive reducer. That's all the reduction is. It's no different to that, okay? And that's straight from Createx themselves. So now what can you do with the automotive reducer? Well, if you're in a high temp environment such as humidity, and if you've got a low temp where you've got extreme cold, maybe even snow, that is when this product works better with acetone in it. General temperatures, you don't need to, okay? So for airbrushing, we start off with 20%, we can go more, it doesn't matter, you can go 50% or even higher. It's whatever you need in your environment to get that paint to flow how you want it. So as far as spray guns, we'd go 10%, and that's usually about the mark, okay? So now we're going to say, well, how do we get this paint system to sit ultra flat? In fact, you can even get it better than a solvent system. Most reports are that this is better than a solvent system once you add the mixing additive, the 4030. The mixing additive you'd add into any of these products except for the chrome, okay? As far as the Autobahn Sealer is concerned, you don't need to add it to it. You can do, but for the paint systems, you will get it to lay down ultra fine, like this helmet and the surfboard. You get it so smooth, you can then tape on, you have no grainy effects, and it flows better than a urethane. So you can get it down to a fine gradient even, which is really good for airbrushing. Now the thing is though, anything you mix with a 40-30 in it, you can't keep it, okay? It will set it off because you now turn the water-based product or the waterborne product into a water-based polyurethane, okay? So mix it in your airbrush or mix it into a little bowl or maybe even a bottle as such, and then whatever you don't use, discard. It'll last up to roughly 72 hours. We've seen it last less, and I've seen it last longer. I've got some stuff that I mixed and it was 2 weeks later and it's still working, okay? So those are reductions, and now we'll get into this bonnet, we'll get some airbrushing up. The preparation is key to a good paint job, so wipe your surface down with isopropyl alcohol. I've never had a paint job delaminate, I've never had tape lift paint up. If you use wax and grease remover, it can leave a film behind, which then does actually leave a grease on the surface. So isopropyl alcohol will leave your surface ultra clean. You give it a wipe over, you can dry it off with your spray gun, or you can leave it to air dry, and then you would go over with a tack rag ready for your paint job. So we're going to use Autobahn Sealer, which is a tenacious water-based undercoat, sticks to hard surfaces extremely well. We're going to use the black. Now I've reduced it by 10% with high performance reducer, and I know that I've only reduced 30ml, but 30ml of colour here will cover this entire thing. One light coat and then one medium wet coat and we'll be done. So I'm using a 1mm mini spray gun. We got the PSI set around about 40. As you can see, the second coat, we can put it on fairly wet, and then we'll leave that to dry, either air dry, or we can speed up the process by using a hair dryer on a cold setting, and we can flash that off ready for the next application. It's now time for the gloss black, so we're going to put down the 4258 and we're going to use it straight from the bottle. We're not going to reduce it at all. As you can see, the Autobahn Sealer is dried to a matte, to a light sheen, and we're going to only introduce this product. We don't want to go hard on this. If you put down wet coats to start with, you can get this to crater. So the first thing is to put down a couple of nice lighter coats, and we'll just build up our coats ready for a wet coat. But first of all, get the light ones down, get the introduction to the paint surface, and dry them off in between, and you won't have any problem with this product whatsoever. So now we've opened up our material knob, and we're going to put down one reasonably wet coat, and that's going to give us a nice high gloss finish ready to go for our next application. So using a sign mask on the website, we just cut out some designs including name and a brick pattern in the middle, and we're applying those to the surface, and as you can see, that sticks no problem at all to this particular product. Nothing's coming up on the backing, and that gives us ready to go, ready for the colour. Now it's going to be a black chrome where we've put the mask, so we're now going to introduce a Quicksilver Chrome, and that's going to be straight from the bottle, no reduction, and there again, light passes. Don't try to put this on wet. A couple of light passes, you can see them a good 4 or 5 inches off the surface, and we'll build up the first few coats, and then we'll dry it off, and then we'll remove the masking, and what will happen is we'll be able to create what is a black chrome and a true chrome effect, and we'll show you that in a minute, and that'll look pretty cool. So we're now removing the mask, and as you can see, the black is stayed black, and the area on the outside, you can see how much the chrome effect has come up. So now that we're ready to do the next stage, which is a black chrome, so that black will now become a lighter version of the chrome, which will give us a black chrome effect. Let's talk about masking systems, especially for over the top of outerwear colours and wicked colours. Well, the first thing I do recommend is if you're going to use masking tapes, use a 3M green automotive masking tape. That works exceptionally well on clean lines. Now let's talk about the auto mask and the sign mask, because there's a little bit of confusion. So the auto mask, first of all, it comes in a whole heap of different widths up to 610 wide, and it's 91 metres on a roll. Now what is it? It's paper adhesive. So we can use it for masking out our backgrounds where we don't want spray to get onto our backgrounds, all the way up to full car sizes they use this on. And we can also use it to draw on, so it's a paper surface, so we can put it down, we can draw on it, we can hand cut it out and then transfer it to our project. So it's almost similar to using a frisket, but it is low tack, so you do need to make sure that you push it down nice and firm. We can also use it to pick up our sign mask, which is what we're going to do in a minute. But what is sign mask? Well, sign mask comes in 610 metre wide and by the 5 metre lengths. Okay, it was designed for the signage industry. It was used for painting. So this particular product wasn't used for lettering, it was used to paint through. So we've got a mask here that we've cut out, a design to go over the top of this. So we'll get cracking on that, we'll lay it up for you so you can see how to use it. So there again, sign mask is a low tack adhesive, and we can use that to hand cut out like a frisket and then transfer it. So it's very popular with all aspects of what you can do with the product. And as you can see, you can lay down the mask a couple of times. And we use an applicator. An applicator is a product that's on the website in the accessories section, and we use that to pick up our vinyl. Okay? So we squeeze it down nice and hard, and that allows us to then pick the vinyl up. So the way we remove it from the backing is we turn it over and we start removing by pulling. Don't pull upright, pull back along the surface, that way you can see if there's anything on the back of the sheet that you haven't got transferred. There's a piece there. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so there's nothing on that sheet. So we're now ready to put that to our surface. Now this is Quicksilver, and we're going to apply that directly to the auto air. So I might just pull that down for a second so I can line it up where I want it. I'll say that's looking good to me. So there again, we use the squeegee to follow the edges. And that allows us then to apply the vinyl, because it is a vinyl, directly to the surface. Now that's not going to damage the surface, alright, and it's not going to pull up the surface either when I want to take it off. It's important that your surface is dry, that way you get the best adhesion. Okay. If your surface feels like it's slightly tacky or has taken in mildew overnight, and you can feel that it's just not dry, then obviously get a bit of heat on it and dry the surface out before you apply the mask, and you will find that you won't have any trouble with the mask at all. So now I'll peel it off. This is where you guys run into trouble. You say it doesn't stick. I'm going to prove to you it sticks, and it sticks easily. Okay, so there's nothing over the top of this Quicksilver, it's just Quicksilver. Now we don't pull our mask upright because we want to break the surface tension. So what we do is we pull it down along the edge. There again, we are going slow. We don't want to go quick. It's not a race. You want to make sure it's all on there. So I'm checking the backing film as I'm pulling it off to make sure that everything is where I want it. And there you go. The difference is my surface is nice and dry. I've made sure of that. And that's ready. So we're not going to waste anything here. There's nothing wrong with this tape. So I can now use it to mask up where I don't want to overspray. I've got to put a couple more masks on this after, but we'll do this one for now. And this will just stop any overspray from getting anywhere else on this product. So I don't have to go back and repaint any of the chrome, because that's not what we want to do. We want to keep the steps down to a minimum. So there you go. You can, after you've used this paper, you can peel it up, stick it on a wall, as such. Alright, didn't pull any paint off, no problem, stick it on a wall, come back and use it again and again and again until you've run out of tack. So you've got multiple uses for this, and as you can see, this is dead flat, we're ready to paint it. Using Wicked colours, we're going to put down gold metallic. The gold metallic is going to serve as our background glow for our candy effect. We could use anything from autowear colours in the pearls or the metallics, or Wicked colours. So now we're going to also put down an edge, and we can brush any of these products too. So we're using the bloodline colours, and we're going to be using the blood red, and that's going to give us an effect of blood dripping off all the surfaces as blood would as it runs down. So using Autowear Colours Candy dyes, we're using the Candy 2.0 system here, and as we got the blood red, we've reduced that down with 40-30 mixing additive. You need that to stabilise the product, and we've put in around about 20% and also some high performance reducer, and we're going to put down a couple of lighter coats, and then we're going to pound in a couple of heavier coats, and that'll be our hands done. So now we've switched over to our illustration colours, and we've got the white here, and we've got a 0.35mm, it's a Neo, and we're just backing in the name of Airbrush, and we're going to get that ready to do a horizon effect. So as you can see, we've got this also reduced slightly with a little bit of high performance reducer, and it goes down so super smooth. It's so much like a urethane, you can't hardly tell the difference. Dries quickly, no grainy effect, beautiful and smooth, ready for the next application. The horizon effect is going to have some colour shift in it, so the best colour to put that over is black, so we're going to use illustration colours black. And there again we're going to cover the whole airbrush name, and we're going to get it ready for the next part, which will be a colour shift, and we'll get onto that in a minute. We're using Candy 2.0 in the middle with a bit of card that's got serrated edges on it, and we're creating that centre point horizon line with the red oxide. We're going to come back over the top, and we're going to pound in the Flare Tint Silver Spectrum, which will give us a holographic effect, and then over the top of that we'll put just a light coat of the Carib Blue, which is a Candy 2.0, and that's going to be pretty cool. So then from the bottom point of view, we're going to go back over the bottom of it with the illustration white, and we're just going to highlight just below that center point. We don't want to knock out the center point. We're going to put a little bit of highlight here and there on the bottom and give it a realistic effect. So using Grabber Orange from the Candy 2.0 system, so our background is a chrome, so we want this to look really cool. This is going to look really unique, so we're going to use the Grabber Orange as a nice aniline dye that is transparent, and we can put down whatever colour we want here. If you want to, from the Candy 2.0 system, we can use the auto wear colours, and we can use the transparents like the red oxide and the root beer are popular, or we could use the wicked detail colours which are transparent. But for this particular one, we want to use the candy dyes. We could use any colour here, but yeah, we've selected the Grabber Orange, and we want to get some blowouts here, so we put down a little bit of paint and you blast a little bit of air on it, and that gives you the dark edges around the outside, which is realistic. And then we airbrush lightly in the gradients which go down, the rust going down the metal, and on this chrome effect this looks absolutely smick. Using illustration colours black, and we found one particular dot on a bubble effect stencil, and we're going to blast it in the middle of the rivets on all of them. With this stencil we put down a couple of coats of illustration colours black, and did you know we're now going to do a marble effect. You can marble any of the water-based base coats on our website, Wicked Auto Air Illustration. So we're using the Sparklescent Electric Green. The only time we do this, we're going to put down a couple of really wet coats, and then we're going to come back with some cling foil while it's wet, and we're going to dab the surface. That's the subtractive method, and that will create a really nice marble effect. So you can do it the other way around too, where you put it onto your cling foil and then you dab the surface, and you can come back over the top with candies or anything, and you can come up with a really cool marble effect. Okay, so we have our items now completed and they're ready for clear coat. You can see there's some various sizes here. So what do we need to know about clear coats? Well, Autowear colours, Wicked colours and illustration colours all take any 2-pack clear on the market that's automotive grade, and marine catalysed clears. So for larger items such as this bonnet, we'd use spray gun and cars, helmets, that sort of thing, and usually you would use the manufacturer's tip size that's recommended. But for these smaller items, you know, you hobbyists at home, what are you going to do? You haven't got a spray gun, you don't want to set up for something large where you're going to waste a lot of material because maybe you're doing a fishing lure or this die cast can't. Well, I've had success with the Duplicolor acrylic lacquer. That has worked very well on these products, and I'm going to trial out this one, which is got 2-pack technology, but it doesn't have the isocyanates in it. Okay, so this goes down as a high build, real high gloss, hard finish clear. So you can say, well, what's the fan heater here for? Well, when you're talking about ambient temperatures, follow the recommendations on the cans of your paint systems or your rattle cans, and these recommend 15 to 20 degrees up to 30 degrees. So I've got an ambient temperature today of only 10. So that means the substrate temperature is going to be lower than 10. It's going to be much lower. So we're talking somewhere around about 2, maybe even 0. So what do? We use a fan heater and we just warm up the area and we warm up the items in which we're going to be clearing, and then we follow the recommendations. Now, in particular, you must keep the warmth. Okay, so in between the colours that we're going to put down the clear, we would then put the fan heater at a distance and let it warm up the area. Keep it warm, don't let it go cold. Another little trick for you is if you're using acrylic lacquers in particular, if you put a coat or two on today and you come back tomorrow and you go, oh, I'm going to put another coat on, don't do it. It's going to fry on you, it's going to crinkle up. The paint system is not the problem, it's going to be the clear and how you applied it. So follow your clear recommendations to a T if you want to get the best results, especially since you've done all this work. Okay, so I see this video as a way of giving you guys various ways of doing something. I would normally send this off and I'd have a 2-pack cleared, but for the purpose that it's only a display bonnet, and, you know, if you're going to put it inside, you just want to get a clear coat on it that's going to protect it. Autobahn Sealer transparent base, okay? So this is how we're going to do it. First of all, we're going to put in enough transparent base. I'm only going to put probably about 50-60 mil in this, and then I'm going to add some 4030 mixing additive. Okay, and I'm only going to add roughly 10% to what I've done. Okay, so there's no Einstein stuff going on here. You can basically just mix it out, and then I'm going to put high performance reducer there again, around about the 10% mark. Now it's not mixed, and you guys are probably thinking, well, how do you get this mixed up, ready to go? Well, put your finger over the end, and pull the trigger back, and you'll get bubbles in your cup. Alright. Those bubbles are mixing the paint together, ready to use. So we'll check the spray pattern. Yeah. Now the first coat, don't put it on heavy. Okay, we don't want the paint to fish eye on us. So we're basically just going to put down a light coat. I'm only feathering the trigger. I do have my pressure up around about 60 psi, which is quite a bit. But I'm only going a little bit back on the trigger, so the material flow I'm keeping to a minimum. As you can see, the overspray, there is hardly any overspray. And we'll just introduce a nice light coat to start with. Rightio. So now we're going to back the material knob out a full turn. Now you watch the spray pattern. Okay. Now we've got some paint. So now we can put it on a little bit heavier. So for this, because of the shape of it, I'm going to cross hatch it the other way. The other thing you'll notice, especially when you're doing paint jobs that have got base coats in them, which is what waterwear colours and wicker colours are, some of this stuff on top where I put the candy over the top of the silver spectrum, you can't see it until you put the gloss on. When you put the gloss on, all of a sudden, wow, it just comes to life and you'll see the colours explode and go, whoa. So keep in mind when you're painting something, the same as down the bottom where we've done the marble effect, it's now come to life because of the clear coat, and that is what is required. If you do not clear it, it won't come to life, okay? So there you have it, that's the completion of this particular hood. We gave it a good clear coat with the transparent base, the 6000 series Autobahn transparent base. We added the mixing additive, we added the 4012 high performance reducer, and it's fairly decent. I'm quite happy with that for an indoor application. Now, as far as, which also means if you guys don't want to put 2-pack on your job, you can still get a reasonable representation and the chrome effects still come up very well. So as far as what you can't see, there is one mistake that I made on this, in which I just want to explain to you so you don't make it yourself, and that's part of doing these videos. You like to push the boundaries, make things fail, find out what the fixes are, so when you guys ask me, we've got all the answers for you, so it's kind of R&D if you wish. So when I put down the candy and the caribou on top, now that is mixed with the 4030 mixing additive and the 4012 high performance reducer. What I should have done before I put the transparent base down, the clear, is I should have put down the bleed checker. Now the bleed checker, if I had to put that down nice and neat, no reduction whatsoever, so no 4012, no 4030, just straight from the bottom, put a couple of coats, that would have sealed the candies in, which meant they couldn't bleed. So what's happened, which you can't see on camera, is a slight blue line on the outside of two of the letters when I tilted the object for clearance when I was drying the clear coat. So what's happened is the bleed has been allowed to come through into the transparent Autobahn. Okay, that's because in the two products used, so in the candy and in the Autobahn transparent, I used the 4012 high performance reducer. That allows a path, if you wish, for the candies to be able to move between layers. That is why the bleed checker, if we use that straight and we don't put anything else in it, and it puts down a nice barrier and which stops the candies from bleeding through. So make sure you follow the rules, because there's reasons for it. Once you put all that time into a job, you don't want it going wrong. This is just a display piece, and I will show people this and I'll show them the fix so they know how to fix a problem when it pops up. So we've finished doing some R&D on our Quicksilver Chrome, so now I've got some good oil for you, and I've got some failures, so hang around, watch it all. This will solve some of your problems and some of your questions too. So first of all, this bonnet, we did the Quicksilver Chrome on this, and we used a 1mm mini spray gun and put that down. And I thought, you guys that want to put it inside at home, you might not want to use 2-pack. How can we get a gloss clear that's not a 2-pack? So what I did was I used the Autobahn transparent. So it's a 6000 transparent. It actually is an undercoat, but being the fact that it goes clear, I thought I'd have a go at using it as a clear coat. And what I did is I added the 40-30 mixing additive. Now we put in around about 20 to 30% of that, and then the high performance reducer. And that turned it into a water-based urethane. So I gave it several coats. I let it sit for a few days. And I come back and I thought, right, let's try, I could fail here. And I thought, let's just give it a shot. So I got out the cut and polish, and I cut and polished the surface. I didn't sand it, so I just cut and polished the original surface that was there. And then I come back with a swirl remover and I polished it again. On the side cast, it's nearly as glossy as a 2-pack. I can't believe the way it's come up. It's absolutely fantastic, and there's no scratches in it, there's no buff marks because I didn't use a buff, I used a hand, and it come up really, really shining. Now I'm not saying that you can use this on your external paint jobs like cars and helmets, because you won't get a manufacturer's warranty if you do. In Airbrush Megastore, certainly I'm not going to go back this product externally, but I bet they're not far on the verge of creating a water-based clear, because that's come up really good. I'm going to stick this one outside to see what happens, but I reckon it'll be absolutely fine. But there again, there is no warranty, so don't go doing it. But for internal use, there's a way of getting a nice good gloss level and supplying something that's going to go indoors or in a shed. So on the rest of it, I did get some failures. So this is how we're going to step you through of how to get the product to work in your applications. So on the smaller stuff like die-cast car and the squid jigs, I did get the clear coat fail. Not on the car, but I did get it on the squid jigs. So they've been repainted. So what happened? Well, first of all, I put down the gloss black and I put it down too heavy, and I did get it to crater. And I thought, oh, well, I'll keep going and see what happens. But what I did find on the second run is if you put the gloss black down light to start with and then build up your coats, drying them in between coats. I had a hairdryer and I was just flashing them off, and I kept building up the coats, and within a couple of minutes I had a nice high gloss black, and it stayed glossy. So that was the trick to getting the gloss black to work really well. Now as far as the silver is concerned, same thing. If you put it on wet, or you put it on with too big a tip size, you can get it to pull on you and it's not a desirable effect. So the first one, I did get that to happen. So I did have failures, and I thought, okay, well, I'll go down to a 0.35mm, and I dragged out the Neo and I dropped the pressure down to around 30 psi. I was off the surface a good 8 inches, and I was gobsmacked because the paint hit the surface and laid down flat. It did not go down grainy at all like you would expect a paint from that distance to do. So I dusted the chrome on, and it came up really like a treat. It came up like it was meant to, and I got the highest gloss level of the chrome that you're meant to. So that was the trick to that. So all these items, back off the surface, put the chrome down diligently, put it down from a distance, light passes, dry it in between passes. It doesn't take long, and you'll get yourself the desirable effect. Now when you come back and you want to go over the top of the chrome like I did here, I put some candy green over the top. There again, don't go put the paint on wet, because what happens is, because the chrome itself is so smooth, your paint will run, okay? So go nice and fine and build up your coats. It goes down the same, okay? So I put down the Candy 2.0 and I also put down the Flare Tint Silver Spectrum over the top, and it came up beautiful. Like, I'll show you some images later on a different video. The Silver Spectrum is actually a chrome holographic. You see the chrome glow through, and the Silver Spectrum is like an oil stain, and it looks beautiful. The same with the Candy. I've done the Candy and I've done the Silver Spectrum through that, and you've got the Silver Spectrum glowing through the Candy with the chrome beneath. Unbelievable what you can do with these products. So be adventurous, because you're going to find out some new techniques of your own. But the clear coats, we'll get back to that. Well, it failed. I painted them in this. It is a single pack, 2-pack, but it doesn't have the isocyanates. Okay, so it failed. The chrome didn't like it. It bubbled up. Okay, that's going in the bin. I ain't going to bother to use that again. So what happens in the clear coat, or any 2-pack clear, will go over the top of this, no problems at all. But you guys at home, I know you want to have a solution to be able to paint your smaller stuff, and you don't want to load a gun up 2-pack. So what did I do? Well, I got the transparent base out, the 4004 transparent base of Autowear colours, and I gave it 2 coats. The fact that I've done that has now turned the surface into what is the base for Autowear colours, and I know that acrylic lacquer was fine over the top of that. So what I did then was I grabbed out the duper colour, which is acrylic lacquer, and that is a gloss, and I've done those particular squid jigs and I had no problems whatsoever. I did leave one small area without the transparent base, and the acrylic lacquer did not like the Quicksilver Chrome. So there is a couple of things for you to remember. If you're going to do Quicksilver Chrome, you want to clear it at home, you're not going to use a 2-pack, put down the transparent base, cover the whole thing with a couple of coats, let it dry, and then you will be able to get away with your acrylic lacquers like I did. It worked for me anyway. Okay, but anything 2-pack it'll work. So there you go, there's some good oil for you. I hope that solves some of your problems, and I had fun doing it, even the failures, because the failures have taught me, for when you ring me, how to get you out of trouble. Okay, so here we are, we're done now. So this is the hood, and what we've done is we've come back with the cut and polish over the top of the transparent base. We didn't colour sand it, I've just polished this. And then I went over the top with a swirl remover, and I reckon, as you can see, we've got a really nice gloss level going on there. I'm quite happy with that, and I reckon that you guys could use this for interior clear coats. So get out there and paint something. Quicksilver Chrome is an awesome product. Candy 2.0 over the top, can't go wrong. Off you go paint something, show us what you've done.